Hi, welcome to A Course in Miracles workbook class, brought to you from the Little Garden in Sedona, Arizona, USA. If you would like to study the course with others, but do not have a home group, you might want to watch our study group's home-style meetings on YouTube. For details of this and more, go to our website, www.thelittlegarden.org. Thank you and enjoy today's class. And we're doing A Course in Miracles lesson 46. God is the love in which I forgive. And, I was thinking this morning how sometimes it seems so easy to it just feels like floating along, knowing that everyone is the Christ, everyone is doing their best, everything is working out, love is present. I am in the state of love because I'm in God and so is everyone. And other times it feels like a steep mountain to climb. Yeah. So this is a good lesson.
So that's very true. And I think that is a goal we've talked a lot about, is that, in learning, it's like if you're learning mathematics, once you learn fractions, then you always have it. And I think the course is saying that there's places where you can get where you've accomplished learning and you never need to go back.
Yeah.
And that place usually is this place of defenselessness. Like I'm not dealing in my reactions to the world around me or even to myself with my defenses. I'm recognizing defenses are what the problem is.
Yes.
It's a continuing of this original problem of thinking I left my true self, thinking I left God and love, and now I believe I have to defend myself against that. And the Course is just saying, you can get to a point where you're not using defenses to protect yourself. You're using forgiveness to protect yourself. And that we can get to this place where we never lose that sense of peace and love and joy.
Well, yes, that seemed to be true until, it's like I know how to drive, but I fell into the ditch. I drove into the ditch. So, I do have what I need. I've studied the course, I've worked with the course, and I need to really, really practice it today. Something happened yesterday with a friend that is like, no, this can't happen. And I need to do the work. So one of the things that really occurred to me as I'm doing the work all morning long is to recognize that if I think of forgiveness as release, that is a really helpful construct for me. It's like, okay, I let go of my beliefs about what all that means. You brought up this morning a lesson about how my thoughts are what's making me suffer.
Yeah, in the lesson way back in 11 is saying the key to forgiveness is to recognize that the world's not producing my thoughts, that my thoughts are producing the world. And then that becomes the challenge, because when people's behaviors are destructive or are attacking us, and we don't want to deny that kind of thing, but what we want to see is we don't need to be defended against that it's really my thoughts. This was the point of the Jesus story, that even though he was tortured, even though he was murdered, he didn't interpret himself as being a victim of that. And so this absolute recognition, no matter how you feel, is that my thoughts are producing my experience. And that becomes the challenge.
Okay, so as you're speaking about this, I'm thinking my thoughts produce the situation, but bringing it closer is my thoughts produce my reaction. To me, physiological reaction is pain.
Right.
Right. So my thoughts are producing my pain.
Right.
And that is also what produces my perception. But the thought is, I deserve punishment.
Right.
You know, it's like God is the love in which I forgive myself. So it's like, okay, why would I ever choose? Because the Course is telling us that deep in the back of our mind, we have chosen suffering if we're suffering. That okay, it's a very big lesson that we have to learn over time, right? Would you agree?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this is the work we're here to do, is to realize that here's what it says. What you must ultimately realize at the end of everything, what you must ultimately realize is there's no world outside your mind. Now that is huge. Think about that for a minute. There's no world outside your mind. So my mind can either think with God, or it can think with ego, separateness, and pain and conflict, loss, lack, sacrifice, and pain of all sorts, physical pain, emotional pain, financial pain, whatever. That's ego thinking. My thoughts can be either with God, which are just God. What's it say? First line, God does not forgive because he's never condemned. Or I can be thinking with ego, this is bad. She was wrong. That was a really bad thing to happen. I can be thinking with ego with those judgments.
Mm-hmm.
And who hurts? I do. That's the trick of ego. Way back there, hidden in the closet. I made the decision consciously, but then I forgot it. So it doesn't look like me. That's what he tells us.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like me. It looks like the other person. The other person was bad and hurt me. Isn't that what anything looks like that needs forgiveness? So what you just said was, it's only my thoughts that create the problem or make the problem.
But it's also recognizing in that lesson that these thoughts are meaningless.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah.
And I mean,
yeah.
And I think what he's saying over and over again, that the motivation for learning this course is not truth and knowledge. You already have that. That's the whole point of the course, is you didn't lose truth and knowledge. But the motivation for learning the course is peace.
Right.
And that's what he's saying is our criteria by which we've withdrawn our projections. We've dropped our defenses.
Mm-hmm.
We've accepted that my thoughts produce this
Mm-hmm.
experience. And then I turn to love
Mm-hmm.
and say, God's love is how I forgive this situation. Not solely on my own,
No,
with
right.
just my strength.
Can't do it on my own.
It's God's love. And then the criteria is, when I actually did that, is I have peace.
Right.
And again, that's peace again in two senses. One sense is, I see there's two thought systems, the egos and the Holy Spirit. They can't both go together. But my peace at the moment is I'm not confused between those two thought systems. I've just fallen down on the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And then, having fallen down on the Holy Spirit's answer and not the egos, then I recognize the other aspect of peace is nothing needs to happen now. So I'm okay. Because
now.
I'm in peace right this moment.
Right.
That's the point of the present and the holy instant. Right?
So yes, so before we go on too much, I want to just talk about that meaningless idea. So one time, a friend, I was in a really vulnerable state, and I had just lost my sweetheart, and I was really in pain. I mean, he was driving away at this moment, and she chose that moment to like really get in my face about something nonsensical. It was like, that's what it looked like to me. And so I was so shocked that I took that meaningless track. And the way I processed it was, so I see a big mouth. So I hear a lot of decibels in my ear. What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything unless I give meaning to it. Holy Spirit, let me see the love here. And what I saw was she was in pain. So, okay, I didn't need to have the same kind of reaction like you hurt me.
So in other words, rather than seeing that person as positively assaulting you, you see this person calling for love.
Yeah. And I wasn't really in a place to give love at the moment. It took me quite a while to go to that place of, well, how is my interpretation hurting me?
Yeah.
Because it looked like she was hurting me.
Right.
So it's always my way of thinking about the situation. So, to go back to what we were saying earlier, the Course says ultimately we have to recognize we chose that situation. We are making images in the world, making images to hurt us.
Right.
But the way we can undo it is to let go, to release that other person. And to me, at the moment in this process that I'm working on today, recognize that I'm releasing myself.
Yeah.
It's like God is the love in which I forgive comes to me today as like an ocean of love that I can immerse myself in and feel at peace in, surrounded, loved, blessed, because God does not condemn me. And then the issue goes away. It really does.
Right.
When I think that God is the love in which I forgive myself, or God is the love in which I release myself, God is the love in which I let go of all my pain. It's like a baptism.
Yeah.
I go into that ocean of God's love and let it wash away the physiological pain and the thoughts and the beliefs about my friend, all of that. And then I feel free. I feel good.
Yeah.
So this time, working with this particular instance of my need to forgive, this time I'm finding to do it backward from the way the Course, the lesson for the day.
Okay, talk about that.
So I'm working more effectively with God is the love in which I forgive myself. God is the love in which I release myself. Mm-hmm. Not from anything I did wrong, but from my pain. Mm-hmm. Then God is the love in which I release the other person. I release her from her pain. She's free of my condemnation. The reason we condemn other people is so that they'll hurt, so that they'll change, so that we can take the pain off ourselves and throw it on them.
Yeah.
Well, so when we release them, we're also releasing ourselves.
That's exactly the point here, is that he's talking about by me forgiving another, that's how I'm able to forgive myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is because I've projected the problem onto the other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first place I've got to get to.
Right.
Is they're deserving of forgiveness.
Right.
But, maybe it might be worthwhile a little bit here to talk about what the Course is saying, what real meaning is, right? So from the, because right at the beginning of the workbook, he's saying, the mind training is this. We are training you to tell the difference between what's meaningful and what's meaningless,
right.
What is inside and what is outside, and what is the same and what is different.
Mm-hmm.
So from the Course's standpoint, it says, from the ego standpoint, we think meaning is tied to the circumstance, to the events, or to the personality attributes of somebody else or ourselves. But what the Course is saying is that purpose, or that meaning, so we say the meaning of the situation is this event or circumstance that's causing this experience. And what the Course is saying is that purpose is meaning.
Uh-huh.
Whatever purpose you've given to that situation
Right.
is the meaning for that situation. So we break it down to something binary, like, is my purpose to remember who I am, or is my purpose to continue to forget who I am
Right.
through condemnation of
Right.
others, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's the idea that I've engaged in condemnation. That's why I have to withdraw the condemnation. But I've
Right.
got to recognize that meaning comes ultimately from my thoughts, and my thoughts of what is the purpose of this situation.
Yeah, purpose. And also, who do I want to be?
Yeah.
Do I want to be like a big shot of some kind, or do I want to be the Christ, one with my brother and sister?
Yeah.
What do I want to be? You know? So our purpose gives it meaning, or as the Course says, purpose is meaning. It's like, what is the purpose of this situation? So now I can see that the purpose of the situation, so I learn a deeper level of forgiveness. So I learn a greater sense of my own strength with the Holy Spirit.
Right.
That's the purpose. If I make that the purpose, then everything that happens and every thought I have, I'll bring to that purpose, and I'll see it in that light.
Right.
Right? So then, I can breathe.
And that's, he's describing that as a state of defenselessness. So in that lesson, if I defend myself, I'm attacked.
Right.
See, that's the part that we at first have to take on faith, because defending ourselves seems like how we get our needs met. Like, I've got to go out, I've got to ensure food, shelter, and clothing. I've got to do all these things. And what that lesson is saying is these very ego defenses is what's making you still experience lack. So the idea in that lesson is, rather than planning, I drop my plans and I just receive the answer from the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And so then, rather than trying to organize everybody or everything, I just learn what I can give.
Right.
So no plans, and then what would you have me give?
Yeah.
Is how the purpose is turned around at that moment.
Yeah.
And the instant, that's why we continue to do this course 35, 40 years later, because we've proved to ourselves, I can make a decision for the truth of who I am through forgiveness. And maybe the world doesn't change, maybe they don't change, but I've changed.
Right.
And I've learned I have this power to change the purpose in the situation.
Right.
I want to remember who I am.
Right.
I'm not a body. I'm free. I'm still as God created me. That's where I want to stand on.
Right.
And like you had said this, and like we were talking about early, it's quite possible for us to get to this place where we truly are defenseless.
Yeah.
Where we're not looking at these ego sort of goals and how to get it and how to manage.
And the cool thing about being defenseless is we're in a state of no pain.
Right.
That ego says you're defenseless. You're going to be like a squashed bug. And Holy Spirit says when you're defenseless, you got nothing that's not of God.
Yeah.
Now, what is our choice?
Right.
Do I want to be defended and holding in my pain, hold my pain to me?
Right.
That's really what we're doing. And I noticed this morning that I kept going over the situation. And every time I had one of those thoughts about the situation, I was in pain. Why would I do that? Ego says, think about it. You'll defend yourself. You'll prevent that from happening again, or you'll punish that person, or whatever. It's got all kinds of reasons why we should keep on thinking about the painful situation. Why? Does it help? Not a bit. That painful situation is paining me, not the other person. Well, isn't that dumb? How come it's taken me so long? I got trapped by the ego again. So what? There you go. So what? I forgive myself for being trapped by the ego.
Yeah. I did a class earlier this morning with my good friends in Tucson who are course students, but they're also women who have been in the 12-step program for over 40 years.
Yeah.
And they're sponsoring, one of them sponsoring like 40 people or something. But, we talked about that is that when we help somebody else, what we're doing is we're stepping out of just our needs.
Yeah.
And we're recognizing they have needs too. It's not just about me.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that they teach their people that they're sponsoring, that they're trying to help, is that no matter what you do, I'm trying to help you, but no matter what you do, whether you get this program or you don't get this program, whether you change or whether you don't change, is I am not going to lose my peace.
Right.
I'm not going to make my peace conditional on your behavior.
Yeah.
So that's like,
that's the lesson of forgiveness.
it is the lesson of
Yeah.
forgiveness.
Yeah.
And, like we shared the other day, I think it was, I don't remember who it was with, but this constant question, this is how love works. Love takes whatever we made and uses it to teach us love's lessons, not the ego's.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what the Course is recognizing is in our minds, we're always asking, will I be enough? Will I be enough? Will I be able to meet these situations?
Mm-hmm.
Will I have what it takes?
Yeah.
Like we're always questioning ourselves like that. And what the Holy Spirit does, and then we figure, okay, I know how I can be enough in this situation. Let me do this, let me do that. And what the Holy Spirit is saying to us is this is the one thing that you need to hold on to, is that in and of yourself, you're not enough.
Yeah.
So the very worry that we have gets turned around to grace.
Yeah, right.
Right?
You're not enough by yourself.
You're not enough
Yeah.
by yourself. And that's the good news, not the bad news.
It's great news. It's like, it's like if we ask for help, we get it.
That's it.
And sometimes it appears to come from the outside. And other times it is solely from joining with the Holy Spirit or Jesus on the inside.
Yeah.
Either way, it's helpful because ultimately there's nothing outside our minds.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what was really helpful for me this morning was the person I was working with and the situations I was, which just, to me, I got to this point that you talked about where I just get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
But what helped me this morning was to remember that it's God's love
Right.
that gives me the strength to forgive.
That's right.
Not just my own.
Right.
It's like
That's key.
God is the strength. Vision is his gift.
Right.
God is the mind with which I think. God is the light of me. So when I recognize it's not just me, that I have this great strength available to me,
Right.
then I can make a change.
We can ask for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, ask for help.
No longer on my own.
Yeah. Being on one's own is a very definition of ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.